What's up, everybody? This is Connor and Joshua with Chamber One Tactical. Today we've got a really cool video, in our opinion, for you guys about some interesting AR uppers. And I guess they're not really just an uppers company now. They're
Right.
kind of a full AR build company.
Yep.
Bear Creek Arsenal. So me and Joshua both kind of got a early start on the Bear Creek Arsenal, fad, I guess is what you'd call it.
Yeah.
So we real early on did a couple builds. And we've kind of gone all through the different calibers that they offer. Getting around a few of the bigger calibers we haven't really tried out yet. But on your main AR-15 platform, we've got a few different options that we've tested out here. So kind of going through the lineup, we shot all these guns. Some of them are ours, and then some of them are from family members and friends that are a little bit more on a budget.
Yeah.
So some of the guns you're going to see have a little bit lower quality
builds,
just builds in general.
Yeah.
So the first one we've got is their 7.5 inch 300 blackout. This is a 300 blackout upper. This is my brother's actually, but out of the few that we have up here, only one of them is actually a full out Bear Creek Arsenal build,
and then it'll be the one on the end,
and it's the last one we're going to. So, but 300 blackout 7.5 inch, really cool little truck gun.
Yep.
Has done real well for us, and we'll get into all of the reliability and everything, but we're just going to run through the guns real quick, and then we'll get into the specifics.
Yep.
And then next we have a 10.5 inch 300 blackout on a Veterans Tactical lower. So same caliber, just a little bit longer barrel. Again, it's a 10.5 inch, and then we've got this is where we're getting into the more budget.
Not one of our builds.
This is not one of ours, but this is a 10.5 inch 223-556. It's just this is actually the standard. Pretty much, this is a very basic lower. I believe this is an Anderson, and then you've got the 10.5 inch with the standard muzzle brake that comes on it, and some cheaper accessories.
Yep.
But that one's 223-556, and then we have a better done up. This is actually Joshua's gun.
Yes, it's actually the exact same upper as this one.
Yep.
But obviously
done correctly. But this is a 10.5 inch 223-556 as well.
Yep.
And his is actually, I think it's still on an Anderson lower, but he did go and do some upgrades.
Yep. So
to
it's
the internals.
The Anderson lower and Palmetto State lower
Their
parts
trigger.
kit.
Yeah.
And then of course a lot of those things I actually went back and swapped anyways.
Yep. So this is Joshua's. I think this is actually his bedside AR. And then if you want to tell him those. Last
so. Then this one is a full 16 inch. This one is chambered in 7.62 by 39, side charged. This one is on a Diamondback lower. So we did have a Diamondback AR-15 lower, so we just went ahead and slapped this upper on there.
Yep.
And then we have this one. Now this is the only one that was a complete rifle from Bear Creek Arsenal. Yep. So this one has the whole lower and upper came together. This one actually came in at a really good price. That's why it was purchased. This one is also in 7.62 by 39, except it is, your traditional charging handle up top.
Right.
But this one came in as a deal at $350 for the entire gun.
Blazing deal.
That was a really, really good deal.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I might not have mentioned. So the 7.5 inch that we have, it is a rear charging, just standard rear charging. All the 10.5 inch that we have, the 300 blackout, the 223, and Joshua's 223-556, all of those are going to be side charging, which I love the side charging, just to be honest with you. It's a little bit more to take the bolt out and to clean it and everything. You got to take off this back pin and take off your charging handle. But other than that, I really like the side charging. I think it's cool.
Yep.
And then, like he said, the last one is your standard rear
and there's
charging.
one more that we do not have on the tape, which is a 18 inch 7.62 by 39 as well, correct?
Yeah.
Was that one side charged or traditional?
That one's side charged.
Yep.
Yep.
But we just couldn't fit it on the table.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, we've our whole goal in doing all of this was to truly put Bear Creek Arsenal to the test. Right. I mean, we've tested it all the ways that we know how. We've got some higher end lowers, which your lower is not a huge deal when it comes to your AR build. It is good to get quality parts. But we've tested it on all these different lowers, cheaper, more expensive, billet, all these different lowers, and then having the entire gun from Bear Creek Arsenal, just to give you guys a little bit more to to base your opinion off of, not just having one gun or one upper and saying,
Right.
well, they're an awesome company. We wanted to give you guys as much information as we could.
Yep.
So, I guess what we'll start off with is what to me is the most important, which is reliability.
Okay.
So, all of these have been very reliable. I will say, unfortunately, the only gun that we've had issues with for it to be the gun issue, because we're going to get into some other issues that we've had on the 7.62x39s, but it's not a gun issue. But my gun specifically, there's been two different issues that I've had. One of them being the actual bolt itself, where the firing pin sits in that channel. I believe what we pulled out was a piece of casing.
Yeah.
Actually somehow got lodged in there, and it was locking my bolt up. So the bolt would not actually, you could sit there and try and pull it back all you wanted, but the lugs were not fully rotating. And it was causing the bolt to stay stuck in there. So I really had to, mortar it pretty much to get that bolt back. And once I took the bolt all apart and found that the firing pin was actually lodged up in there, that piece fell out, and it's been fine since then. As far as
it's a good thing it's
bolt.
side charged.
It's a good
having
thing.
that exposed and being
Yep.
able to really like hammer down
Right.
on it.
And that's why it's a benefit. That's kind of why we wanted to try the side charge, and we've kind of fell in love with it. And then the second thing, it actually happened during our testing today, where we had a round actually get stuck in the chamber. And again, pretty much the same kind of deal. It just expanded in the chamber. I was shooting AAC. I believe it was the VMAX, Hornady VMAX bullet. That's the first time I've had that happen with these guns, but it expanded in the chamber, and I just had to really, pound on it, and it pulled that round out, and it never happened again. Never had any issues again. But we did want to note those two things because that's actually what happened. And then if you want to tell them what happened with the 7.62.
Yeah, so with the 7.62s, this happened for both of them. And then, of course, us just doing some research online, even with other brand uppers, you just typically see this with 7.62x39 uppers on AR-15s. And it's not a gun issue, it's mainly the mag issue.
Yeah.
So what we did to kind of fix that is our 30-round mags, even though they had the anti-tilt, over time they just get weak and it'll still nosedive and it won't actually chamber.
It seems like the follower almost catches where it curves.
Yes, exactly.
Once you get to that curve, it just wants to lock up.
I guess we should have had a mag up here to show, but the 30 round, it's very extreme, and so it's getting locked up. So what we did is we actually purchased some 10 round mags and some 20 round mags. The 20 round does still curve a little bit, but it's not near as extreme. It doesn't go to where the 30 round did. And so far, we have had good reliability. We haven't had any malfunctions with those magazines. So this is not just a Bear Creek thing. That's something that happens with all 7.62x39 uppers.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, we've seen with a lot of different companies,
Mhm.
the mag is very, very important, obviously, because that's what's feeding those rounds up. So like you said, we had a problem. We fixed it by changing out the mags, and I don't believe we have had any issues since we've been using the 20. Is it 25 or 20?
It's a 20.
So 20 and
they do have options for 25 and all that, but I wanted it to be as reliable as possible while still getting a pretty decent amount of capacity.
Now, but we can honestly tell you guys, we've shot all these guns. We've shot a lot. Mine and Joshua specifically, we've put a ton of rounds to these guns just because we do a little bit more shooting than the average person. But we've put a ton of rounds to these, and we have not had anything break on them. We haven't had any issues really as far as the quality of the guns. And I can say, now that we've kind of talked about the reliability and everything, these guns are pretty tough. We've used them like you're supposed to use them. We've kind of, like I said, this is more about these two right here, the 300 Blackout 10.5 and Joshua's 223.
Yeah, these have been tested the most out of all of them.
We've tossed them around. We've done as much as we can without just completely destroying our guns, because we do still use these things. But we've done a lot of testing with these, doing different internal parts with these bolts and everything. And the only thing I can say we haven't done is shot these suppressed. So if you want information about them being suppressed, we unfortunately can't give you that.
We did have someone come over with a 300 Blackout Bear Creek upper shooting it suppressed, and it worked perfectly fine with subsonic and supersonic ammo.
But I mean, we've as you guys can see, I mean, we've done a lot. We've tested a lot of different things on these guns, and it's just been super, super cool to be able to, kind of change up your gun where usually all you can do is buy the gun, and then you're kind of waiting another month or two to get your accessories. With these, I mean, I believe when we bought mine, our uppers, we only paid $189
Yeah.
because they go on sale so often. And like he said with the 7.62 by 39, I mean, $350 for an AR. The only thing I've seen that low are those what are they called? It's the all polymer ones that people. I watched something the other day. They hit it on the buttstock and the whole thing broke.
Yeah.
So to be able to get in my opinion, pretty good quality AR for $350 it's really, really good to see.
Yeah.
But moving on from reliability and everything, is accuracy. Out of every single one of these, even down to this little 7.5 inch, I've been very impressed with the accuracy on these guns. We have had no issues whatsoever. A lot of times me and Joshua will try and back up as much as we can. Now we do shoot in the woods most of the time, so backing it up is hard. But 100 yards with these guns, all of them, has been no issue hitting our silhouettes and everything. I mean, we're making hits at 100 with no issue. But very, very impressed with the accuracy of these guns and holding accurate throughout our testing, especially, a lot of times it may not be anything internal messing up, but actually the external parts of the gun, like your pick rails and stuff, getting beat up, them actually bending or stripping or anything like that, and then your optic's not on. But we've had no issues with that either. Everything has stayed nice, snug, and true. Had no issues whatsoever. So, like I said, I've been very impressed with the reliability and the accuracy of these guns. But
yeah, I will say just one thing to keep in mind: they try to produce these in mass and try and get them out. So when you get in, if you're just buying the upper or if you're just buying the whole gun, look over the gun and check over the gun. I can say for this one, the 7.62 by 39, the bolts right here on the rail right here were actually loose when they first came in. It wasn't a big deal, I just take an Allen wrench and tighten them down. But it kind of surprises you that it made it past our quality control.
Yeah.
Again, not a
it
huge
surprises
deal.
you, but it doesn't at the same time.
Yeah. But if that was the only issue. So just some screws that needed to be tightened up, and I noticed that as soon as I got it out of the box.
Yeah, and I will say, obviously we do a lot of research just like you guys do. That's probably why you clicked on this video. But we do a lot of research also just to be able to provide you guys with all of the information we have. And there have been other people on YouTube that have had issues, and I've always seen, this is what is important to me, is yes, you want a quality product, but you also want to have a company that will take care of you if something ever did happen with that gun, because everybody knows that no matter how good the company is, there's a limit out there somewhere. And I've seen that with every issue that people have had, Bear Creek Arsenal has always done the right thing in getting it fixed, or sending them a new gun, or whatever they got to do to fix the situation. They do it, which is nice to see. We haven't had to utilize that,
and we've been through how many?
I mean,
7 or 8.
We have a ton of them. And like I said, the reason we have a ton of them is because, one, they're affordable, but they work. I mean, if they didn't work, we wouldn't have them. We would get rid of them, and we could move on to another company to try out, which is, we just actually purchased a Palmetto State Armory upper,
which we will do a comparison eventually.
Right. And we may get more in depth with that, getting really accuracy tests and stuff like that. But as far as these go, we've been very impressed with them. Like I said, had a couple issues with the internals of this one. Joshua, like he said, had a couple issues with the screws. But there's one other thing I think you wanted to mention.
Yes. So I know some people might make fun of me for my weird rigging for my pressure pad right here for my flashlight. So right here, this is my pressure pad for the flashlight. If you guys see, I got some Ranger bands kind of holding it down. So this is one thing that all of these uppers have in common, and I'll grab this other 10.5 to kind of show it. So they kind of neck it down a little bit, and so it's no longer the Picatinny for just kind of around the area that you're going to be wrapping your thumb over or your hand. So I do get it. It allows you to get a full grip around it. It's very comfortable. But if you want to put a pressure pad on there, it kind of wiggles around, moves around. And like Connor said before, we do a lot of research. We watch a lot of other videos as well. And I know this is an issue that Honest Outlaw also had. He put some zip ties around there. My solution was more Ranger bands, because it's just quicker to pop off, slide right back on, because sometimes I do take the flashlight off. So I would really like to see Bear Creek come up with some sort of plate system or adapter that would go right there that would be flush that you could actually use just for a short section to put your pressure pad on. And I did look out there. So far, I have not seen anything, but that would be nice just because I don't like stuff to move around and I don't like having these bands on here.
Yeah,
But,
and I mean, even on the full size, 16-inch, and we understand what it's for. It's saving on weight.
Yeah.
And it's for you to be able to get a little bit more grip on the gun coming over your thumb. But even on the 16-inch, they could have left you a little bit more. I could understand maybe on the 10.5 and the 7.5 just because you got to have somewhere to put your hand.
Yeah.
But at least on the 16-inch, they could have left you a little bit more to be able to put that on there, and you wouldn't have had that issue. But again, like Joshua said, it's not a deal breaker for anybody. It would be nice to have something to correct that, but it's not a huge deal. And I will say, kind of the last thing we want to touch on is fit and finish. I've been very impressed with the fit and finish of the guns. They come looking real good.
They're smooth, they're direct.
Everything. That's kind of what when we first bought one, we were kind of surprised because a lot of cheaper ARs, you get them and it's kind of I guess the word would be gritty.
Yeah.
Kind of a gritty feel. But these things, when you pull them right out of the box, just super smooth. And every single one has been that way. I think the only one that wasn't super smooth was our full Bear Creek Arsenal gun. And that was because the charging handle that they had in there was actually a little oversized.
That's right.
It was a little out of spec, I guess. And it was locking up right there on the rear of the upper. So you'd have to sit there and really get on it. And we swapped out to an ambi charging handle anyways. So it corrected that like that. But that was something that we noticed on the full Bear Creek Arsenal gun is that charging handle was a little, I guess you'd say, out of spec.
Yeah.
A little tight.
Which a standard one is, around $14. They're not super expensive. Just to replace it. But of course, if you're going to do it, might as well put an ambi one or extended one on there.
But like I said, fit and finish, we've been very impressed. And like we talked about, we've put these two guns through it a little bit, tossing them on the ground, hitting some brick. We got a lot of brick out there where we shoot for some reason. So hit them on some bricks and you really couldn't tell. There's just the finish has held up great. We don't have any nicks in here. I mean, I've been very impressed. I like it a lot. I know I've said that, but for this price range, it's just nice to see that somebody who may not have a ton of money that wants an AR can go out there and get them a good quality AR that will get them through what they needed to get them through.
Yep. So that was about to be my question to you: is who does this serve? What kind of people are going to be buying these? Who would you recommend this?
So, I would say, I'm kind of going to go back to what you said. Is you just have to know as a purchaser, as a consumer, that you need to go test your gun. So as long as somebody understands that, we would say that even if you're buying Geissele or any other, expensive name, AR-15, you need to go test it. So as long as somebody knows they need to go test it, I would say that even get a newer gun owner who's, our typical new gun owners are probably going to get a Glock 19 and they're going to get an AR-15. That's their first two guns. I mean, other than maybe if they get a 22. But that's usually, I worked in a gun store for 2 years, and that's usually what I saw as the first gun is either a Glock 19, and then they're coming back for an AR-15.
Which are good choices.
Yeah. Ammo's readily available and everything, but I would say this is kind of right there for somebody like that. Somebody that can't go afford a super expensive gun, they can go and my recommendation is build it. Buy you an upper, buy you a lower, learn how to build your lower. I think it's very important for people to understand how your gun works so that if you have issues, you can take it apart and you can figure it out yourself. It's great to have gunsmiths, but I think gunsmiths should somewhat be a last resort. You should learn how your gun operates and be able to work on it if you needed to. So I think that's what this is for the new gun owner who can't afford a nice gun but wants to get into an AR-15.
Yeah.
What would you say?
So I would say, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you were talking about people that build their guns. When I think of, because it's more of a hobby, right? So yeah, you might build one really expensive build, but you might want to do a whole bunch of different setups and change stuff up. And you can do it. Gun. Yeah. One just to throw around, have different purposes, try out different calibers, try out a side charging AR-15 without breaking the bank.
Yep.
That's a huge deal in and of itself, is
Absolutely.
Just being able to try out side charging versus the traditional charging handle. So things like that but it gets you in and being able to build your AR-15, changing it up and all that without spending a whole bunch of money. And you can see
Absolutely.
that's why all these are built in different ways, is we get to test different builds while still saving some money.
And truth be told, most of these guns, before we started putting all these accessories on them, were built for less or right at what other uppers cost by themselves.
Oh yeah.
So that's a huge deal. Like, yeah, I'm glad you said that, because, you know, a lot of these guns, when you start building them yourself, you're saving a ton of money. And I know, like Arrow, you're probably looking at what, 480, 485 for an upper, and that sometimes doesn't come with a bolt carrier and a charging handle.
Yep.
So you're really looking at, you could build these guns right at for what you just get an upper for.
Yep. And I don't know what the pricing is for the Bear Creek lowers
Mhm.
assembly, and you know we could always look that up. But I know Palmetto State has $119 for the whole lower build.
Yep.
And then all you do is buy a Bear Creek upper. That's dirt cheap, and you have an AR-15.
Yep.
You know, so, and I know when I built mine, I put a Anderson and a lower parts kit from Palmetto State. I've done some changes since then, so I've put a little bit more money into it, upgraded trigger, upgraded safety, and all that stuff. But when I first built it, it was under $500.
Yep.
Well under $500. So it gives you that opportunity to have an AR-15 on a budget.
Yep. And, you know, I just want to mention before we close everything out, if there's anything you guys saw on any of these guns up here that you have any questions about, or you want a little bit of, you know, knowledge of or anything like that, because we have different optics on every single one of these guns.
Yep.
Different muzzle devices on every single one of these guns. So if you have any questions about anything you saw in this video, please feel free to drop something down in the comment section and ask us. We'd love to be able to answer any questions that you guys have.
Absolutely.
And also, we'd love to know of any other future content you guys would like to see, any kind of guns that you'd like to see, or comparisons, or anything like that, gear. We'd love to be able to provide you guys with good quality content that can help you make a good decision in the future. So we appreciate you guys staying tuned for this video, and we'll catch you next time.